Okay. Are you in business and you can't get the right customers? Are you in business and you just can't grow that business? Are you in business and you're saying that, wow, I just know that I have what they're looking for, but why aren't they purchasing my products? Why are they not buying? And if you're new in business or if you're thinking about it, you want to know, well, how are they doing it? How am I going to get them to pay attention to me? Well, I'm going to tell you tonight. It is called branding, okay? Now, let's get into it and let's find out what branding is and what is not. So, welcome to the conversation. We are a little late tonight, but hey, we are here to get into the conversation. And you can always listen to the replay as long as I have it posted and have it up. Now, branding it really is pretty much simple. It's really not that hard to do in your business. And what it is not just the logo, it's not just the colors. It is, guess what it is? It is your reputation, it's your identity, it's your messaging, it's your experiences, and it's the lasting impression that people have on you as your business. So you got to work on some things when you are branding yourselves, okay? And this will get you farther in business than you trying to be the perfectionist that I know you're not. Because none of us are perfectionists. No, we can't, everything is not going to always go right. And so if you have these core things down, it's going to help you, one, make the money that you want to in your business, and it's going to help you sustain your business, and it's going to help you to make it, the road is going to be a little bit easier for you. So those are a few things that it's going to help you with. So let's listen up and we can go through this and we can just lay it out and you'll be fine. And branding, in case you don't realize it, branding is one of those major things that can set you apart from everything else that's out there. Okay. Branding yourself. And that gives you, that's where your uniqueness can come out. That's where you can shine, and then people can know the difference of who you are in business and when they're doing business with you. So you want to make sure that you are branding yourself in an appropriate manner. Okay. And so remember, I said it's your identity, it's your reputation, your experiences. So you got a whole lot of things that can compile and make up branding. And then you got the message that you convey. See, you're unique with it. Okay. So your branding can be unique and it's not hard to do. It's just that you got to pull those things out of yourself. And what I just mentioned, you got to pull those things out for you. Okay. So you can't walk around here wanting to be a copycat of someone else because your brand will be just like a carbon copy of something else. And you don't want that. And guess what? You don't have to do that either because you are a unique individual and you can package yourself with your message, with your experiences. No one else have your experiences with your impression, your expressions of those things and the identity, your identity and your reputation. So once you compile all of those things together and once you realize that, hey, I got this and hey, yes, I can do this thing. And with me, with my experiences, with all of those things that I just shared with you, branding is not that hard because it's not hard being you. It's harder, it's more difficult being someone else. Okay. And so with all of that compiled in your business ideas, you know, your business layout, you have a plan. You have the brand, you know? And so this is how true companies build their brand without all of the fluff, you know, without all of those other things, okay? So our branding is not the logo. Remember, the branding is not your colors, it's not your font, it's not your website, it is not your graphics, and it's not your business card. A brand is who you are, what you stand for, why people trust you, what kind of clients experience that they have with you, and what do people remember about you and your business. Okay. Write that down because that is telling you a lot. Alrighty, write that down. Let's see. Okay. All right. Someone is requesting to come up. No, we're going over some things. You're not coming up and interrupting the flow of the conversation. So please don't ask to come up again. It's about the second or third time someone wanted to come up. So anyway, if you have a question for me, DM me, okay? DM me, and we'll go from there. So now, how do you discover your brand? That's the next thing. See, what we're talking about tonight, you guys, is very important, okay? Remember, it's very important for your business success, okay? If you're not there yet and you want to get there, well, you got to listen up, okay? Now, I mentioned to you, I talked about your identity. I mentioned that earlier. Those are one of the things. So let me just break these things down because I know when we're talking about them and when we're saying them, we say them, but we haven't explained them. But we're gonna do some explaining a little bit, and we're not gonna go too in depth with them tonight. We're just gonna explain them, and I want to talk to you about just how to get your branding together so where you won't miss out on the opportunity for your business. Okay, that is very important. Branding is so needed and it's so important, right? Okay, now with your personal identity, let's talk about who you are. That can help, just like who you are can be a little bit in your bio. And then your story, you can kind of tell that throughout. As you notice, sometimes when I'm speaking to you guys and when I'm talking to you on certain things, I slide my story in there. I share my story with you somewhat. Thank you. I share my story with you. And then also my personality. I have a unique personality. You have a unique personality. All of us have a unique personality. And the next one is our experiences. You all have different experiences. I have different experiences than you. And even just interacting with people or business, or customers if I've have in the past. And then if you're new in business, there's other things that can help you with your branding, if you haven't had any business experience. And so those you don't want to leave out either. Your business identity. What do your business represent? This is a part of your branding. What do your business represent? The message of your business. You have to lay these things out. You have to. And then you can get to working with making the big bucks, okay? Because now remember, we're not thinking small that we're just gonna do a door front, just a small business. We're going to think about the long term of our endeavor. This is something that we've put our time into, and this is something that we want to grow. This is something that we want to last, and this is something that we want to turn into a more successful and maybe one day sell kind of business. Okay, so you may not want to, but then we want to prepare ourselves for that. And so branding is very important for that too. And then the credibility behind whatever you're having to offer. And so that is your brand. Once you tamper with your brand and then you allow people to come in and kind of, you know, set a negative connotation on your brand, then you got to do damage control. So you don't want to, you want to start off right. You want to start off with the integrity and all those kind of things. Like I say, sometimes you're going to have those customers that you're not going to make happy. And this is why with branding, you have to you have to lay the foundation with your agreements and those kind of things, your agreements, your standard and operating procedures, what kind of team you're going to have, letting your team know exactly what's your core, all of these things. When you convey these messages out from the beginning, from the front door, then you don't have to worry about it when someone walking, meet them at the door with this information. But then when they walk in your house, they already know where they stand. And so no one can wreck your business because you would have set your tone for your brand. Remember that you set the tone for everything in your business. Okay. Your core values and your standards, integrity, your excellent, the education, you explaining the process to your clients and your purchase, your buyers, and your excellence comes with the communication to your customers, and that can be within written material, all of that. All of this is a part of branding. So you don't have time for anything else but to grow your business. If you're going to have a business, see, it's so much involved. You didn't realize that, did you? No, it's not. It's more than getting the LLC. It's more than just saying, hey, I'm going to get an LLC for my business and I'm going to get me a virtual mailbox, all this kind of stuff. There's more to it, honey bunch, than what you're doing right now. Okay? It's more to it. And then, having that faith in what you're doing, seeing a vision, building on with the vision that you're already into now, that, you took the first step to do some things to get that business going. Then you got to take another step, and then you got to take another step, and then you got to take another step. And so having the faith in it, that you can kind of walk and continue to grow from where you are to where you want to be. All right. Oh, really? Okay, all right. They're talking to me over here. And so yeah. So anyway, now your passion and your purpose and your brand direction. Now, let's talk about this. Now, your passion is just a small portion of your business branding. And it's not the whole business model. But then you got to connect your passion with the purpose. And then you got to find out what you got to combine all of that with, your customers and what you're going to have to offer them, right? Okay. Now, and your passion can be like, what do you want to do with your business? What is it? What have you researched and you found that is needed? Okay. And then take your business idea into the right direction. And that's gonna seal in that's gonna lock in your brand. Okay. And what else do you do? What is your passion and what you want to do? How do you want a person to feel when they're in your business? That's a part of branding. That is. It is. And so what is the next thing is what is the strengths and the weakness of your brand, the authority that your brand is going to hold. You have to know that. And when you identify your strengths and what you're going to have to give to the marketplace, then you're going to say, okay, so I'm identifying my skill. So then now what do I want? What result do I want to give the customer? You got to know that too. And when you figure all of that out, you're sealing in your brand. You're locking that thing in. You're honing it in. And that's when your uniqueness and your experience and just knowing about your customer, your potential customer, your returning customer, and just getting that feedback from people that you can serve. And I'm going to tell you that, listen, this is the beauty of this. You know what that's going to do for you in your business? Is going to give you repeat business. It's going to give you that repeated customer, because all of this, when you take care of your customer, they ain't going nowhere else. They're not going anywhere else. I know with my beauty industry, I have people who've been with me 20 years. Okay? 20 years. 20, y'all. 20. 20. 20. 20. 20. And they're not going anywhere. Anywhere. And I'm not saying this to brag, but I've done these things that I'm telling you about over the years. It works if you work it. That's all I'm saying. It works if you work it. In my business consulting, I have business clients have been with me from day one. Yes. And you formed and you build a relationship. with people. And and this too, why do you think a lot of times businesses, in the past, they don't do it as much now, but they used to, like, during the holidays, they used to give like little parties and Christmas parties and things of that nature. And then they say, our particular, certain customers, they send you an invitation out because you have given them your hard earned money, and they appreciate it because they know they want to keep you around, and they want to celebrate, the joyous times of the year with their customers. And then, especially, like I said, if you have given them a certain amount of business, and they choose their own measures to determine that, then you know they look out for you, or they invite you into their world outside of just being a transactional customer rather. So that's how that's done, right? Okay, so now, also, with branding, you want to tell a story. You want to be able to tell the story. And then once you figure out how you're going to tell this story, like for instance, some people may, just hold in the brand, like, don't tell your whole life story, but just tell, like, just tell part of it that supports your brand. Like, how did you start? What did you learn along the way? What problem did you see in order for you to want to do what you're doing? And then why did you create your business? And who do you help? So those things all play. Answer those things, and that's a part of your branding message, because you need a branding message. And then it builds that rapport, because then they'll say, oh, wow, she was thinking about me, or he was thinking about me. He had me in mind when he started this business. That's the connection. That's the connection. That is the connection. That is the connection. Okay. And so, yeah. And so your branding voice and your communication style, you know, it should match your personality, because you don't want to sound fake. It should match your personality. It should match your audience, your pricing point, and it should match your values. So certain things you shouldn't have conversation about. It should match. Okay. Like I said, certain businesses are not going to talk about drama filled things, and they're not, certain things they're just not going to discuss. They're not going to pick up certain current events to kind of draw people into their business, because it doesn't align with their brand. It doesn't. And so if you don't do that, you you can educate people. You can have a luxurious atmosphere for them, warm and nurturing, or bold and direct. However you position yourself, it's totally up to you, but you must position yourselves in these areas, okay? And then your visual branding. Let's talk about that. Now, luxury companies they do this all the time. They want to position themselves and position their brands in what, like, certain colors mean certain things, and certain, like I said, it's not all about the colors, but then it intertwines with exactly what you're doing to get to that point. If you're going to create it can't look cluttered, it can't look cheap. It has to have a certain look. You don't want any disorganization. Especially a professional brand. This certain professional brand has to look a certain kind of way. A luxury brand has to look a certain kind of way, and certain things just can't look all out of place and confused. And certain things, if you're going to be strategic, you must be structured. You must look like it's precision. You must, just like with me, I'm a strategist, and I talk to y'all in a strategic way. I don't talk to you on, but at the same time, I'm I'm getting I'm speaking the language because I know my audience. And that's another thing that you have to dig into, and you have to know. You have to know your audience. And so that helps in the branding department. So this is just some deep dive information that you must just really think about when you are building your empire, building your business, and being able to connect with those right people that can either give you funding, that can even have you to come in, be a part of their programs or their ecosystems, B2B kind of conversations or B2B contact, because you can do business with other businesses, state and local government, getting those government contracts, getting those state contracts, doing projects with companies, if not nothing, just doing a 1099 with them. You still want your brand to be powerful in order to make that happen. You really do. Yeah. And so you want the people that can experience your brand to have a great journey through their process, however that should have to look for you. All right. However that should look. And so let's see, you must have these as an asset. Remember, we talked about IP asset yesterday? You must have some things in your branding repertoire in order to bring out the asset in that branding piece or that branding portion. You know, there is standards, there's core values, there is the client profile. I told you all of these are assets. Your positioning statement, your messaging, your guides, your social media bio, that's a part of your asset, your website headline, your offers, your action plan. If you have anything, do you have any kind of visual brand direction? All of this is an asset for your branding and your business success. You can't bypass any of this. And this is not hard stuff, people. I just want you to know that what I'm speaking of is not hard. It's just that you probably never really thought about these things, and it's going to set you apart. I promise you it'll set you apart if you take the time and you guide, and guide yourselves. And so if you want to get on the list for the upcoming event, well, the virtual event, even the 90-day intensive that we'll be doing with getting you ready for funding and getting you ready to be profitable and getting possibly funding contracts and all those kind of things. A class will be starting, well, not a class, but we'll be having a community beginning in July. But I do want you to understand these things as we're leading up to that. Okay. And then I also, along the way, I have other free resources that if you want to get some of those, you can. Okay. Now, and so your brand blueprint is going to be needed. You have a blueprint for your branding, and you are to exercise every right to get your act together with it. Okay. Okay, and before anybody do business with you or purchase your products or anything, listen up. They must know who you are. They must know what you solve. They must know why your business is different. And they want to know, why should I trust you? Or why should I trust your business? Answer those things, and you are on your branding way. Okay? You are. Yeah. And so I would say build your brand very detailed and strategic. And I just mentioned to you some things that you can do. They're not hard to do. They pretty much, if you know where you're going to be going, and you know where you're headed in your in your venture with your business, you shouldn't have any you shouldn't have any problem getting your brand together. Okay? So with that being said, I have given you some information about how to get yourself branded and get your act together with putting yourself in position to be able to be set apart in this department, and it's going to take you higher, and you're going to look different than the average business around if you follow the details and you follow the instructions of the information that we just went over. And so that adjourns the conversation about branding. It's not thoroughly all of the details, but I just gave you the list, and I gave you the things. So if you want to be a part of what's going to be going on in the future with the 90-day intensive, or the 90-day course that we'll be having soon, we'll be working live together. Just put in the chat 90 days. And tomorrow we're going to go over something. I'm not sure what we're going to go. We may go over some more parts of the structuring of the business. And so the intellectual property, I talked to you about that on the previous video yesterday. Now I want you to be able to we're building on our infrastructure. We're building on the final way, or the final blueprint for you to have that extra source of income, and knowing exactly what you need to know in out here growing your business. That's what we're doing. We're building it one brick at a time. So once you finish this series with me, you will have all of the information that you need for your success in creating a business empire that's going to leave an impact, and that's going to be fundable ready. Because I know even if you have money to keep your own business afloat, you still want to be in a position to, if you so need to, you will already be set up for success when you are, you got all of your infrastructure laid out like it should be. Not leaving nothing to chance, because you have to be ready in order to get the opportunities. You have to be ready in order to get the opportunities. So this is the ready. This is the ready series, okay? Getting ready series. So I hope some of these things that I'm telling you guys, you please write them down. Are you writing them down, and are you implementing them? Implement this stuff. I'm not on here for my health. Implement it. Implement the information. Take it and do something with it, and get yourself set up for success. Okay. All right. Tomorrow I'll see y'all on the next video. Are there any questions before I leave? Any questions in the house? Are y'all just sitting here listening? Y'all don't want to ask any questions? Y'all don't want to ask any questions? All right. Okay. So remember that you are created for greatness. You have greatness within you. You are the one that's going to be standing in your own wave of your success, because guess what? There's more than enough information out here for you and what you want to do. So you just make sure that you take action and not sit back complacent, because there's no time for that. We ain't got time for that over here. Okay, we don't have the time for it. And so you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and you have a wonderful next morning, and a good next rest of your day. And just remember to treat everybody like you would want to be treated, and treat them kind so you can have it come back to you just the same way you gave it. Okay, be good to people, and God will be good to you. Be good to people, and God will be good to you. All right. I'll leave you with that one. All right. Y'all have a wonderful night. Bye bye.